title of the next talk. It's called Can Intelligence Explode? Put your hands together for Marcus Hutter.
Okay, my pleasure to be here again. I hope it's your pleasure also, Ben. Okay, I have a lot of slides today. So yesterday it was relaxed. Now the speed will increase hyperbolically, shortly. Today we'll talk about the technological singularity, and the major angle is how will it look like? Okay, that's a very difficult question, but I try to at least discuss various options and likely or not so likely scenarios. So first let me give you a mini introduction to the technological singularity. It's sort of too late, right? Yeah, I mean, should have presented that yesterday in the morning, but just to get you on the same page because different people have different notions of the technological singularity. So for me, the technological singularity is a hypothetical scenario in which self-accelerating technological advances cause infinite progress in finite time. Okay? And I'm rather strict about that. So, well, I'm a mathematician, and for me a singularity is an infinity point and nothing which is just large or huge, yeah, or gigantic. It must be infinity, right? Okay, that's this curve here, and well, I can relax that a little bit, but not too much. Usually with a technological singularity, people associate a speed explosion or intelligence explosion. So computer speed explodes, therefore intelligence, and so on, and therefore technology, or the other way around. So usually these go together. And then people say this is a prediction barrier, so you cannot predict what happens at the singularity or beyond the singularity, which seems to be natural. Because, I mean, if you have infinite changes, then things will be very different. Okay? So the considered setup is, and I will concentrate mainly on a virtual software society, which consists of interacting rational agents whose intelligence is high enough to construct the next generation of more intelligent rational agents, and so on. I mean, many of the considerations don't really depend on the details. Some depend on it, but I just want to consider one scenario. So we all go virtual, or we create AGIs in some virtual world, and they are more intelligent than we are, so they create the next generation. And yeah, this picture below here. So let's imagine this here. Here's some jargon. I will just, this is a slide for the camera, and you can read it later. I will explain some of these terms along my talk. So there are too many exponential charts out there with Moore's law. So we'll be quick. You have all seen that, and actually Moore's law holds for more than 60 years now, so you can even trace it back to 1900 if you want to. So that's calculation per second per $1,000. So at the very beginning, these were $1 million devices just to add some numbers. Yeah. So if you extrapolate that, you get Moore's law hold now for 100 years, and then you can try to extrapolate. And here we have a human brain. So I mean, this is controversial, but there are various different ways to estimate the capacity of a human brain, and at least they converge to this value of 2 to the 15 computations per second. And here you have all these animals down there, and here you have 7 billion humans. And you see here, so if this extrapolation is correct, then we may have a singularity at 2040 or something. Okay, so that's what you often see. And Ray Kurzweil wrote 2 books, and they're full of exponential charts, right? Yeah. And more of it earlier, 1988, already talked about that. So exponential is great, but exponential increase does not cause a singularity. The exponential curve doesn't have a singularity. It doubles, everything doubles every 2 years, yeah, but that's great, yeah, but there's no singularity. But Solomonov, as far as I know, was the first, yeah, to have the following insight and formalized it. He said, look, I mean, I mean, Moore's law is not a physical law, right? Yeah, it doesn't happen automatically that computer speed doubles every 2 years. We have to do something for it. And so we do research, we do engineering, and that's the reason why we have progress, and it happens to be that it takes 2 years to double the speed. Okay? So that it's doubling is natural because you decrease the scale by some factor usually, always that's the reason why it doubles. Okay, so far so good, but at some point, so why 2 years? Okay, that's 2 years of hard work, yeah, but that's 2 years of subjective hard work. So if you have a virtual society of human level AIs who do the research, well, they will also take 2 years, right? Yeah. But now they can improve their hardware, they run on twice as fast hardware. So from their point of view, subjectively they still need 2 years, but in physical time they only need 1 year to double the speed. And then the speed has doubled, they only need half a year to double the speed, and then a quarter of a year. And we all know 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/4, so adds up to a finite number. So that's displayed here. So once we have AI, and we virtualize everything, it takes another 2 years, and then these AIs need only 1 year to double it, 1/2 year, 1/8, and so on. And you have the exponential curve becomes a hyperbolic curve, and you have a real singularity. Okay. So interestingly, many people predict Moore's law will break down in the future. Yeah. Here's a prediction which also predicts that Moore's law breaks down in the future. But rather than flattening out, it becomes even worse or better depending on your view. Yeah. Even more extreme. Okay. Of course, technology does not need to progress, and maybe there are some physical limits, and indeed there are, yeah. But sort of as an abstract model, this motivates quite well why it could go hyperbolic. Okay. Here's another chart which you may not seen. Yeah. That's Hansen's view of acceleration of doubling patterns. And so in the hunter-gatherer Stone Age area, economy doubled every 250,000 years approximately. So Hansen is an economist, yeah. So one of the few economists who is interested in this phenomenon of the singularity. And so he studies the size of the economy. So it doubled every 250,000 years. Then with the invention of agriculture and farming, it doubled every 900 years. So it's a rapid improvement of doubling patterns. Then after the Industrial Revolution, economy doubled every 15 years. So our economy doubles every 15 years. So let's assume at some point our economy is dominated by computers and software. It already plays an important role nowadays, but I think the GDP still is only a small fraction, 10% or 5% of the GDP, but assume it's 95%. Then the GDP should double or increase, yeah, with the speed of computer advance. And that doubles every 1.5 years. Right? So maybe then the economy doubles every 1.5 years. It sounds insane, right? Economy doubling every 15 years is already, enormous, but every 1.5 years is ridiculous. But Hansen goes even further and say, look, economy might double, every month, yeah, or every week. And he discusses that in detail in several papers. Okay, that's enough of these, graphs, yeah. So that is the end of my introduction to the singularity, and now I want to study it a little bit. And the first two sections are about can we observe a singularity? Well, even if it happens, can we observe it? Yeah? Or why not? Yeah. Okay, I tell you why it may be difficult. So, so first consider the outside. Yeah? So I'm idealizing the scenarios, but many things you can generalize, not everything. It's a typical problem of mathematicians. They all simplify everything, right? Yeah? Okay, so assume you have sort of this computer or this network of computers, and you have your virtual society in there, and then you have humans out there. Okay, and they're watching the singularity in these computers. Okay, maybe there's a monitor and you can watch. And so the question is, what will they see, and how will it affect them? So them as the observers, the humans. And I use here some words. So outsider means a biological, non-accelerated, real human who watches a singularity, and the insider is the virtual, software intelligent participant in the singularity. Okay. And so, I mean, okay, we have this computer, but we need to increase its capacity, right? Otherwise, there will not be a singularity. So these computers have to be built. Okay, and I mean, you need real factories to build more computing power. So maybe we need the real humans to build these computers, but if you look at a modern factory, there are not many humans around, right? I mean, you know, this assembly line works nearly automatically. Maybe there's some old guy sitting around for the red button if something goes wrong. So what will happen probably is that these virtuals, you know, they become the smarter ones, or the smarter ones. They design new technology. The blueprints will be given to these factories, to these robots, and they will build new machines for them. Yeah? So the human is pretty useless in the loop. Yeah? Maybe at the beginning he can help, yeah? But later it will be so fast he will be sort of out of the loop. Okay, so even if we have a virtual society, we need some factories and some hardware, but we don't need the humans in the loop. And indeed, they are not very useful. Okay, so this is how we can build the singularity. So now first look at an outward explosion. So we build more and more computers, and they fill up more and more space. And well, at some point, there is no space anymore for humans to observe the inside world. You know, they will be swallowed. Yeah? And I mean, they could, you know, extend it to universe. So either you get into the singularity, get sucked into it, that would be probably the most positive scenario, or you get killed. Okay, so it's little chance to observe the real singularity if it's just outward growing. But okay, wait, maybe we don't need to grow outward. Maybe we can have a fixed size, and because, you know, the chip size, you know, always halves the structures, you know, we explode inwards. Okay, and then we can be around and look at it. So what happens with an inward explosion? So let's look. I mean, they become faster and faster and more intelligent, these insiders. So I've depicted it here. So maybe at first, you know, you see 1 + 1 is 2, and then you need some more complicated equations, and then we'll talk more mathematics and more abstract things, and then it will become very icy, yeah. And then it will become more and more gibberish, yeah. Well, probably this is already gibberish to you, yeah. And you know, at some point, you know, maybe it's just zeros and ones, and you know, no chance to understand it. Especially also the speed increases, yeah. It's a speed problem and a cognitive problem. So if you want to see a nice movie about computers taking over, I mean, Terminator is great for the special effects, yeah. But story-wise, there's a very old movie, Colossus, which is much more realistic. You know, no special effects, very soft, very boring, but I think it's much more realistic. Okay, so what we will observe is, you know, something which makes sense, and then becomes gibberish, and then, you know, it's just noise, maybe. Okay, so if you observe noise, you know, is that evidence for a singularity going on? I don't know. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so also the inward explosion, there seems to be little chance of observing the real singularity point or something which is very close to it. Of course, at the beginning, it will be possible probably to communicate with the insiders, but then at some point they will be so fast, okay, then you say maybe they're benign and sort of they play their technology in slow motion and then we can read it, but then at some point they're so intelligent that it's hard to follow. And okay, why do I say the outsiders will observe white noise? Okay, if we look already at our technology, we compress our data more and more. I mean, nowadays video is transmitted via MP4, I think, which is very compressed, and if you look at it, it just looks like noise. And actually, theoretically, you can show the more you compress data, the more it looks like random noise. Yeah? And the maximum compression is actually indistinguishable from random noise. That's also a problem for CETI. So if you have extraterrestrials which are so smart, they will communicate over compressed channels, which just look like white noise, and they have no chance to detect them. There are other problems. sort of related problems. Maybe you've heard about the Library of Babel. So assume you accumulate more and more knowledge, then you would think, okay, you get more and more information, but at some point it collapses in the sense that all information is the same as no information. So the Library of Babel is a library which contains all books. So here's our AAA, is in this book, and AAB, AAC, AAD, and so on, and then maybe some reasonable books which contain some words which make sense. I mean, expanded to all books, and somewhere is Shakespeare, and then there's set. So this library is great, yeah. There's all the books in the world. The problem is you can't find, the book. Okay, so all information is the same as no information. And so, okay, the message what I want to convey is that maybe a society of increasing intelligence becomes indistinguishable from random noise. So maybe quantum noise, there's some intelligent beings there. I don't believe that, but who knows? So let's compare that. So either way, so outsiders cannot witness a true singularity. So either they're eaten up, or they just see white noise. Okay. So you could ask, what is more likely, inward or outward explosion? I think both will happen. So usually it goes the path of least resistance. So humanity was mostly outward exploring, but now we've filled the planet, and so we're more inward exploring now. Sort of we build computers, we build virtual realities, and flying to the moon and Mars is really expensive. It's much cheaper to buy the latest smartphone, right? Yeah, and play Second Life or so. Okay, and it's arguably even more fun, right? Yeah. Okay, so that was if we look at the singularity from the outside. So now let's participate in the singularity. I mean, that seems to be much more fun and interesting. So what will happen then? So, okay, so I have this virtual society, and again, so assume we have an initial society which is very similar to our current society, so that you have a better feeling about what is going on. Very large number of individuals who possess some autonomy and freedom, and they interact with each other. And think about, you upload your mind, and you have these minds, with virtual bodies, and they talk to each other. So what will happen now? Well, I mean, you have a world which is much like the real counterpart. Maybe that's not what you want to, and maybe you're not motivated to create this world, but consider this world. And there will be inventions, technologies, passions, interests, art, so not much different to the real world. So there will be some differences, probably duplicating virtual objects and directed artificial evolution will be much easier because we have then access, much easier access to the data and to the programs. So it's very hard sort of to make a hex dump of the human brain, but it's very easy to make a hex dump of the machine. And maybe that stays like that. Maybe there will be some virtual laws which prevent that could happen, but sort of technologically it should be easy to copy a virtual. And but again, that some things get harder. So at the moment, think about a fixed computing system, and you have these virtuals, and they want to build faster virtual computers in the virtual society. Well, I mean, look, if the computer on which they're simulated is limited, they have not much chance, right? The technology is limited. So maybe our universe is also limited in resources, and there's something. Okay. Well, the virtuals will adapt to the abundancy and the scarcities, and but there will definitely be no intelligence explosion with fixed computational power, right? Well, you can try to improve the algorithms, right? You have a fixed computer, you've got a bad chess algorithm, you have a better chess algorithm, and even better, improve your programming language. But at some point, you're done. You have the best algorithm on the given machine, and you can't improve it further. So with fixed computational resources over the computer, you don't have a singularity. So let's give them more computing power, or us. Now I'm talking here inside. Okay, and there are various options. So assume we keep this number of individuals fixed, but we give each individual more computing power. Or let's say we have a uniform speed up of the society. Just double the computing speed, and we simulate it in double speed. The virtual environment and the virtuals. Okay. What will they experience? well, they will not experience anything, yeah? No difference for them. If the simulated world is, the speed is doubled, but their cognitive capacity is also doubled, they will not experience any difference, right? For their subjective time, nothing has changed. And you can tenfold it or hundredfold it, nothing happens. Except they look outside, they have a camera and they look in the real world. What will happen in the real world will become slower and slower, right? For their subjective time. And if it's really hyperbolical, at some point their external world will sort of stop. Yeah? It's similar to a black hole. It's quite the opposite to a black hole. So if you fly in a black hole, you end up there in finite time, but if you observe it, it takes infinite time. So there's a similar phenomenon. Okay, so that's also not so exciting. So let's increase the computation time in a different way. So let's increase the number of individuals. Okay, so the society gets bigger and bigger. Okay, more people can make more inventions. Yeah, then progress is probably faster. Question is intelligence unbounded in this way? So you have rational agents of bounded capacity, and then you just make more and more of them. Yeah? I mean, more humans are more intelligent than less humans, well, to a certain extent. So sometimes committee discussions at universities, these decisions seem to be worse than individual decisions. Yeah? And individual humans can be very smart, but sort of decisions made on our planet by politicians, maybe not that smart. Not all, yeah. Okay, but okay, let's assume sort of it gets, more people are more intelligent than less people. But is there a limit or is there no limit? Okay, maybe there's a limit. I mean, look at bees. A beehive is definitely more intelligent than a single bee. But can you scale that? Convert all of, let's take New Zealand, yeah, with a big beehive, yeah. And will it become more intelligent than humans? Well, I doubt it. Yeah. Okay, you can convert Australia to maybe a big anthill. There are enough already out there, right? Yeah. Okay, so this approach seems to be limited to. Okay, so are there other options? Yes, of course. I could speed up an individual without speeding up the environment, or vice versa. Yeah, or maybe it's more diverse. I talked about a uniform society where all individuals are more or less the same, but if we have the possibility to copy individuals, then we have the possibility to modify them, and there should be sort of a new virtual Cambrian explosion probably, you have all kinds of different robots, virtual robots, virtual agents, but so whenever you see a robot, I mean sort of a virtual agent, but we can display them more nicely. And there will be ones which run faster, a higher evolved one, lower evolved ones, and you have a whole hierarchy of systems. Yeah. So like sort of our nature here in the real world. Yeah. But the essential conclusion doesn't change. Yeah, so I will not go into that. So if you're strict about the singularity, and the singularity is this infinity point, then it seems that you can't really observe it neither as an insider nor as an outsider. So if you can't hear, or if nobody listens to a tree falling in a forest, does it make a sound? So that's a standard philosophical problem, you've heard about it. Yeah. So if there's a singularity but nobody can observe it, is there one? Yeah, big question. So let's go on. So in order to address this question, I think we have to become more clear about what intelligence is. And, before that I will talk about speed versus intelligence explosion. I talked mostly about speed, right? Yeah, but speed is maybe not the same as intelligence. So look at these two guys, this is a broker who has to make very fast decisions and get usually, or sometimes very rich. Yeah? And then there's Einstein, very slow, but regarded as very smart, and I think he did become very rich. So, who is more intelligent? Usually you think of Einstein, and this has nothing to do with speed. So, and even if speed, were strongly correlated with intelligence, then there could still be a limit to the intelligence space. Yeah. So, so consider a simple, well-defined settings. It comes later. Sorry. Simple, well-defined settings like playing tic-tac-toe or maybe even chess. I have these examples later. And then there are algorithms which produce optimal results. Right? But for more realistic, complex situations, most of these algorithms, they're usually learning algorithms, they saturate and they remain suboptimal. Okay? So then you can argue, okay, maybe another better algorithm gets better and better and better. But there's one algorithm, and I talked about that yesterday, that is IXI. So if you give IXI infinite computation time, it makes optimal decisions in arbitrary situations. So if you look at that, it's not clear what is the boundary between intelligence and speed, right? Yeah. So if I have this infinite computation time, then we already have sort of solved the AGI problem. So speed or computation time does help. But you also need the right algorithm. So take a standard machine learning algorithm for doing some regression and then throw a hard problem at it, it will not solve it. So there are limits to it. So you need the right algorithm and you need enough speed. Okay. So here's a slide that people will skip. So here I speed up the agent and I speed up the environment and then look what happens. And roughly speaking, if you speed up an agent, it can make, if you have the right software, more intelligent decisions because it can reason more carefully about the data. I said if you have the right algorithm. Okay, so computing time helps you to make more reasoned decisions. On the other hand, if I have more data, I can make more informed decisions. So maybe I should slow down the agent and wait until the data is collected and then should make a decision. Okay. And here are various options which I will skip. Okay. And well, then there are also limits to how much information a computation limited agent can usefully process. So if you have an agent with limited computational resources, then it cannot deal with too much information. You all know that. I mean, you have PCs, you have internet, and you have emails, and at some point there's movies, and at some point there's overload, right? Yeah. So if you have t time step in the computer, you cannot read most t bits, right? Yeah, that's the absolute limit, and then you cannot even reason about it. Okay? And maybe there's even a limit in the other direction. So you have limited amount of data, and well, if you gloss quickly over it, you may not see some structure. You are more careful, you see more structure, and you reason and reason and reason always about this limited data. But maybe at some point you can't do better. And I think that's true. I mean, if you take Kolmogorov complexity with maximal compression, and then you're sort of done. Yeah, okay? So there are limits in both areas of abundance of information and scarcity of information. Okay, so so now it's really the time to think about what intelligence is. Is it speed, or is it more than speed? So I have talked about universal AI yesterday. And that there have been numerous attempts to define intelligence and what superintelligence actually do, and I will talk about that a little bit today. And I mostly concentrate on, because I want to talk about the singularity, what type of agents will be at the singularity. And okay, we humans have evolved, and if you have a virtual society, it will probably, of many agents, it will probably also evolve, hopefully. And Mark Pesce talked about this evolutionary aspect also yesterday. So evolution, you have mutation, recombination, and selection, which increase intelligence, if it is useful for survival and for procreation. And well, in animals that seems to be the case, in many cases, so higher intelligence, so via some correlated practical cognitive capacity, then increases the chance of survival. It seems that this is no longer true in humans. So there is studies that intelligence is now positively correlated with power and economic success. and actually negatively correlated with number of children. Which is a little bit a worry if you think about our genetic pool. So maybe our intelligence goes down in the long run, but first it takes longer than the singularity probably needs to arrive. And second, we have genetic engineering which sort of then correct this. So maybe at some point, people will say, yes, we need genetic engineering, yeah, to compensate for this. Okay, do we sort of degenerate? Yeah, yes, maybe genetically, but I mean there's mimetics. So we have ideas and we write them down, yeah, and we transfer them to the next generation via replication, variation, selection, and spreading of ideas. Yeah? And that is nowadays much more important for our society to evolve. Okay, so there is some positive evolution still going on. Okay, that's how intelligence evolves in animals and humans. And if you have this stance on intelligence, so that intelligence is correlated with survival in an evolutionary context, then you can ask, what is intelligence? So maybe it's self-preservation, self-replication, spreading, colonizing the universe. It's also spreading, right? Yeah. Based in part of better and high intelligences, learning as much as possible, understanding the universe, maximizing power over man-made organizations, transformation of matter into computation. I mean, they're sort of all helping to sort of survive and spread, maximum self-sufficiency, search for the meaning of life. I'm not sure how much this helps for survival. Okay, so these are reasonable aspects of intelligence in an evolutionary context. Okay. So now I'll go back to a more usual definition or view of intelligence, namely that it's closely related to rationality, which is closely related to reasoning towards a goal. Okay? And well, reasoning towards a goal, you can relax that a little bit or generalize that, so utility maximization or lifetime reward maximization. And then the question is, who provides the rewards? Right? Yeah. For animals, it's for the pleasure and the pain. Yeah? Humans seem to be fairly flexible in choosing their goals, passions, and especially during their childhood. But actually, still the evolved biological goals are seldomly disowned. Most of us, want to spread, want to dominate, want to procreate, want to parent, and survive definitely. And sort of this is all deep in us. And then we have another layer, so we can mask it to a large degree, but not perfectly. And I mean, why should we want? So more interesting, so what with robots, yeah? So if you want a robot which is useful to you, then the reward will come by the teacher, right? Or if it's an autonomous robot, say on Mars, then it needs to be hardwired. So let's set up an artificial evolution. So first is who sets the goal for the superintelligences and how. I will not answer this question because ultimately we lose control anyway. So if you're looking at it from the outsiders, if you're insiders, so then it will probably transform and things will go in directions which are hard to control. Some people try to do that, so this friendly AI stuff, I come back to that. But okay, my main point here is maybe some aspects can be predicted without knowing the precise initial setup. Okay. And so assume again we have this initial world. I use the word world with a V for virtual world. Yeah? Okay, so it's a short form. So assume we have this initial world, which is a society of cooperating and most importantly competing agents, and they will compete over limited resources. So what resources are there? Yeah, probably many, but the important resources are computation time and memory. They're definitely there. And well, these virtuals will have a motivation most likely to acquire them, because those who don't have this motivation, yeah, they will not spread. Okay, so what will be the end result? Yeah? The end result will then be a society which consists mainly of virtuals which fight over computational resources, and maybe over other resources too. So it looks like a rather hostile society. Well, maybe it's not too bad. Maybe there are some limitations. I mean, compare our world, yeah, it's not too bad, yeah. Especially if you compare to the past, there has been lots of wars, yeah. There's still some, yeah, but less than in earlier times. And I think the reason is because now war is, in most cases, a loss for both sides. So it's not in our interest to have a war. It's not for moral reasons or something like that. It's not in our interest because both sides will lose. While economic competition, at least the winner usually gains something. Yeah? And there's a lot of economic competition, and look, okay, companies who go bankrupt, it's not so nice, yeah, but you know, the winners, at least they are happy, right? Okay. And that's a more benign form than war. Yeah? It may be something more benign than happens in these spiritual societies. Okay, so, and well, you may think, you know, maybe there's enough computational resources, but you know, there's never ever enough computation time. I mean, whatever device you buy, you do something, it's not enough, right? And the same will be true for the virtual society. Either they want to become individually faster or they spread. So what will happen is that the society will breed virtuals, well, with the goal of acquiring even more resources, because those who don't want to do that, yeah, they will die out. Okay, is that sufficient for intelligence? Yeah? Probably not. You know, their bacteria also are quite good in spreading, yeah, but we wouldn't regard them as very intelligent, right? Yeah. But sort of trying to grab resources, yeah, seems to be closely related to intelligence, and an inevitable outcome of an evolutionary scenario where you have a large society. But you know, maybe there are other societies possible. And so maybe a more peaceful, global collaboration, no hostile competition. But I mean, I guess many people would like to live in such a world, but for some reason we don't have this world, yeah? And the reason is that it's hard to set up. And probably the only way to get there is that you have a world government, you know, maybe this one, or maybe this one, yeah? Your choice, or maybe not your choice. But I mean, then you probably have to give up a lot of individual privacy, because privacy enables crime, and you know, crime is not benign, and you want a benign civilization, so maybe you have to give up individual privacy. This comes anyway, and most people don't care. Yeah? I care, but sort of I'm also of the older generation. Yeah? And probably we have to severely limit individual freedom, because freedom also leads to excesses. And you know, do we want this or not? Yeah, it could, you know, look much more benign. Yeah, but you know, you're also more limited. Okay, or you know, maybe you start with a society which is limited from the start. You know, they're all conforming individuals. You know, they have very little creativity to do something bad. You know, so like a beehive, you know, flock of sheep or so. Yeah, school of fish. You know, everything, you know, seems to be very benign there. But I don't think that we want to become sheep, right? Okay, so alternative societies are possible, but they are not so easy to install, and they also have probably some downsides, and you have to think about what you want. Okay, that's enough about how intelligence in an evolutionary context possibly evolves. And let's go back to intelligence. So many believe that that intelligence is somehow unbounded. Yeah? Okay, you have a worm, you have a dog, you have us, you know, and we should not be the end. You know, there should be much room above there in the real world, and even more so in the virtual world. So let me ask, is that really so? So maybe you're already the crown of the intelligent species. Yeah, I don't think so, but you know, you should think about that. So important aspect of intelligence is that intelligent beings are adaptive and they have the capacity to solve problems in a wide range of environments, chess, driving a car, artists, being scientists, and so on. And this led me to this definition, which I gave you yesterday, that intelligence is the ability to achieve goals in a wide range of environments. And so implicitly, as I said yesterday, this captures most, if not all, traits of rational intelligence, such as on this long list, which is probably infinitely long, and formulated that rigorously in mathematical terms. It has very powerful properties. It's not anthropocentric. It is wide-ranging, general, unbiased, fundamental, objective, complete. It's not just a framework, universal, and blah blah blah. So in any way, it's the most comprehensive formal definition which is out there so far. So even if you don't like it, there seems to be nothing better out there so far. Okay, you're invited to invent that. And if you believe all that, then you can assign to each agent an intelligence measure, which is a number between 0 and 1, and which is essentially the expected performance average over all environments which are reasonable, so which the agent potentially has to deal with an Occam's razor bias. Okay. So you get this number, and now you can ask what is the most intelligent agent with respect to this intelligent measure, and that is IC. And so this equation you've seen yesterday. But wait a moment. So now we have the most intelligent agent, so this is an upper bound to intelligence. Right? So then there can't be any explosion. I mean, once you achieve IC, you're done. You can't become better. So maybe, the intelligence space, there's a limit up there. Okay, let me give you some motivation. So let's consider a world of tic-tac-toe. You just have tic-tac-toe games, and the agents want to play tic-tac-toe. It's, of course, close to trivial to play optimal tic-tac-toe. You have this minimax tree search, yeah. It's very efficient algorithm, and you can even, people have evolved, optimal tic-tac-toe players in artificial evolution. And once you reach this stage, nothing can be done. Nothing can be improved. You have optimal tic-tac-toe players playing all day tic-tac-toe against each other. It's all draws, yeah. And that's it. Okay. And, well, you reach a certain level of intelligence. A 3-year-old child cannot play optimal tic-tac-toe, but at the age of 6 or so, or 7 you can, and then it's done. Okay, let's go to a more interesting world. Let's say the world of chess. Well, in principle, nothing changes. You can still do minimax to the end of the game, have the optimal strategy, and that's it. But there's an important difference. This strategy is too complicated to implement in any computer you can build in our universe with, say, current technology and probably future technology based on some physical limits. Yeah? And if you could do chess, then take Go, then you're definitely beyond the limits. Okay, so we have in principle optimal strategy, but not in practice. So we can get closer and closer, yeah, to this optimal strategy, and that's the way how people design intelligent chess programs. You have this gold standard out there, minimax to the end, and then you prune the tree, put in heuristics and so on. You get better and better, but you can never achieve that. So there's always progress, but maybe there's diminishing return. Yeah. It also flattens out. Yeah. You get closer and closer to optimal play, and it makes less and less difference on the numerical scale. So for instance, think about maybe ELO 2987 is, I don't know, just pick it up as the optimum play, and then you're done. And if it's real numbers, okay, you can go to 2986.9 and 0.999 and 9999, but I mean, who cares? Yeah? Does it really make much of a difference? Doesn't look like it, but at least formally what I can do is I take a hyperbolic transformation. I take the function 1 divided by this constant minus I. This is a monotonically increased function. Looks like this here. It's just a hyperbolic with power here. And I just transform the scale. Instead of talking about intelligence I talk about intelligence I prime. Why not? You know, I can use I prime scale or I scale. Scale doesn't make a difference. You know, what's the monotone function. But now in the I prime scale, I can get, you know, arbitrarily high. You know, take I to be 2, 9, 8, 6.9999, and you know this explodes. Yeah. So now suddenly, just by changing my numerical scale, I now have an explosion. Wow, intelligence explodes. I just have to make a numerical trick. But you know, maybe it's just a trick. Yeah? But it raises the question: what is the right scale? Yeah? And maybe the numerical scale we apply, or I apply in IXI, does not correspond to the real, true, felt, or whatever intelligence scale. So what I want to say is that a tiny increase in numerical intelligence may correspond to a huge difference in true intelligence, whatever that exactly is. And yeah, now go back to the real world. So we have this IC, so that was chess, so the IC is similar. So the maximum intelligence is y max here. That's some number which is sort of close to 1, but not exactly 1. And IC is indeed incomputable, so we can never really reach it, but we can get closer and closer. But the numerical advance will get smaller and smaller. Yeah? But maybe an agent which is epsilon close to IC and one which is epsilon divided by 10 close to IC, so for epsilon is very small, makes all the difference. So to give you a very poor analogy, so in Olympic Games, you know, you have these runners, and you know, one is 100 seconds faster than the other one. It makes all the difference, right? Yeah, he gets a gold medal, the other one, you know, is forgotten. So it can be that, especially in arms races, you know, these tiny differences make all the difference, and then if you live in this society, you feel, you know, these differences, although they sort of are on some other scale tiny. Okay, what's this slide about? I think I talked about that. So we have, so I mean, where are we on the scale? So we have worms, then probably, you know, dogs, you know, dogs are more intelligent than worms, yeah, and humans are more intelligent than dogs, and not just faster. So still I talk mostly about speed, yeah. Well, indeed, humans are probably slower than dogs, right? So the question is, are we close to the upper end? So are we close to IXI already as humans? I don't think so. So, okay. Next, let's now believe all what I said. So we have this evolution, this evolves to a society of maximally intelligent agents, and let's assume this is IXI, right? Yeah? And study it, yeah? Which is sort of great. At least, you know, if all these assumptions are true, then we have a mathematical model of the singularity, and we can study it. Yeah? It's better than having nothing. Yeah? Okay. So you can study the assumptions, whether they're true or right, true or wrong, or you accept the assumptions and study what happens. Okay, I said this, and some of these questions I presented already yesterday in my last talk. So we take this IXI now, or a society of IXI, and we could ask questions like, you know, will it listen and trust the teacher? Will it take drugs? Procreate? Commit suicide? Will it self-improve? Yeah, so I discussed it already yesterday. Will it manipulate and threaten its teacher? So I mean, I'm here talking about the singularity, so I'm not sure whether there are any teachers still around. You know, maybe some IXIs teach other IXIs. But even if you're maximally intelligent, you can still learn something. Yeah, I mean, you get new data, yeah? And then, but for every piece of data, you optimally process this data. So you can study their attitude. You know, will all these IXIs be psychopathic or somewhat friendly? So is it a friendly society or a psychopathic society? There's an interesting problem which actually arises way before the singularity. Once you reach immortality, immortality can make you lazy. Yeah? And the reason is you have all the time in the future. So why, you know, bother studying in 5 years? I can just make 5 years holiday and, you know, do that later. But later I can argue in the same way. And indeed, you can formally show sort of if you have a reward setting, reinforcement learning, where you have no discount, then you get very lazy agents. Will they self-preserve? Probably yes. And then a big question, how they will socialize. So I have not answered these questions, but the model is there. Some of these questions have been formalized with the hacking the reward system. You can read here, and others have been discussed but not yet formalized. Most of them, yeah, I leave that to you. Okay, and so here are some references. People who worked on that. Okay, so let's look at some social aspects in more detail, and especially the value of life and diversity. So I've already mentioned that copying virtual structures, should be very cheap and effortless. I mean, creating them in the first place is hard and valuable, but copying them will be easy. And then manipulating it to a certain extent. So this will cause most likely an explosion, sort of a virtual explosion, or a new Cambrian virtual explosion, with all these kinds of different agents, and they will fill all kinds of niches. Yeah? So if there's a need of an agent who does this, well, you just create him, yeah? if it's easy. And well, so even in our society, you grow up, you choose a special job, it's hard training, why shouldn't we sort of design, the next generation and make it easier for them? Yeah? There are lots of objections to it, but if my parents would have put in a better math gene, and I could have sort of skipped a few years, I would thank them probably. Okay. What about the value of life? So for long I thought, if you have human level AIs, they probably, and I don't believe in zombies, I said that before, they should have the same rights or similar rights. I'm not sure whether this will ever happen in a virtual society. So if it is so easy to copy life, then the motivation to value it will decline. It's no problem, if I kill myself, I have my backup at home, right? Probably you even don't care whether I kill you because you also have your backup. It's maybe a little bit inconvenient you have to drive again here, but it's not. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, and yeah, I mean here are some analogies. If you print a lot of money, because these are US dollars, they go down, compared to the Australian dollar. So if you produce, all these new life, and it's so easy to produce, then the value will go down, I think, necessarily. And we have that sort of in digital computers, value goes down all the time. Or think about some other domain, expert knowledge, it was very, very valuable in the earlier time, but then came handwriting and you can transfer it more easily. Then came books, a book is not much of value anymore. You throw it away, just $100 or so. Yeah? And finally, electronic files, it's not worth to keep them at all. You can always download them. Yeah? So if something becomes easily accessible, value goes down. And well, maybe life even becomes sort of a throwaway commodity. Yeah? So you don't care really about life of others, and you don't care about your own life. Oh, let's do bungee jumping without a rope. It's fun. Yeah? I don't even have to drive home, because I have my backup at home. That is already funny, all funny, but and to an extent great. But the point is that it will change the society drastically. I mean, most of our society builds on that we value life to a very large degree. And it has a lot of other consequences. Yeah? And if that goes away, many things will change, to the better or worse. Okay. So I think I've said that. So maybe life becomes so disposable. Yeah? Okay, so now I conclude with some personal remarks. If Adam allows me to take a little bit more time.
Yes, I believe that we can afford a few more minutes.
Okay, so, okay, the consciousness, I can be brief. I said I'm a functionalist. I believe that changing substrates doesn't change anything, so uploading should be fine. And it's more or less all along lines of David. So David Chalmers wrote this great article, so I all recommend you to read this article. And I mean, he's very careful, yeah. But then he tries to be objective, but then also he presents his opinion, yeah. And his opinion is sort of mostly in line with my opinion. Okay. So I've talked about how the future could turn out. I've not talked about whether these futures are desirable. And, well, the problem one with this is how much influence or choice or freedom do we have in designing the futures? Yeah, maybe we can set up, the singularity, but then, it develops its own dynamics, and, maybe it always converges, to a society which fights over resources. So the question is, can evolutionary forces be beaten? Or maybe, should they be beaten? And, well, the problem too is, what is desirable for you may not be desirable for me. Sort of, maybe this is my favorite, yeah. Paradise is maybe also nice, many people like New York. I hate it. It's nice as a tourist to go there, but I don't want to live there. And, once you're in this cube, maybe you like it. Okay. So it boils down to the question is, are there any universal values which we sort of could all agree on? And the Singularity Institute people, they talk a lot about that, and about friendly AI. It's driven by Elizabeth Yudkowsky mainly. And so here is sort of a suggestion of mine, maybe the long-term survival of at least one conscious species in the universe that appreciates its surrounding universe. Maybe that's a value which most would not disagree. Yeah? Okay, that's probably not enough, yeah, and most of you have additional values, yeah. But so I would feel sad if the universe becomes dead and just exists and nobody observes it anymore, right? Yeah. Doesn't need to be humans. ETs are fine, our successors, yeah. But somebody should be there to appreciate the universe. Maybe because I'm a physicist. Okay, and I think I can skip the conclusion. It's more or less a summary of my opinions I expressed during the talk. This is about, singularity, default scenario, Solomonov's law, which is I think the most convincing why it could be hyperbolic, then speed explosion, intelligence explosion, and I talked about the value of life and the societal implications a little bit. Talk about insiders, outsiders, and whether we can observe a singularity. So, okay, that was maybe a little bit too negative, and it's also in the paper too negative. So I think whether you're outside or inside, you will observe dramatic changes. Yeah? But whether they're so dramatic that they deserve the name singularity, I'm not so sure. And if you're absolutely strict, probably not. And if you relax that a little bit, then possibly yes. Okay. And then I talked about sort of the society of ISIS at the singularity evolved by evolutionary pressures. And here are some references. So the talk is based on this article. There are many other articles in this special issue. There's a Journal of Consciousness Studies, and it contains 30 or so articles, mostly, or half of them replying to David Chalmers' article. So read David Chalmers' article first, and then maybe come to these other articles. If you want to read something serious about the singularity, if you want to get excited, then read Ray Kurzweil's book or something. Yeah? Okay, thanks for your attention, and sorry for